Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is going to be a different video. I want to give a very simple explanation for something that most people who are so-called truthers don't have a whiff at. It's not hard to understand. It just people don't want to understand it. But I want to start here with Sharon Stone, and then I want to do that. It's something where, like every person who thinks of themselves as a truther should come around to this understanding. Whether they can do it from what I'm about to say or not is probably questionable and probably not going to happen, but, I need to say it anyway. But I want to start with Sharon Stone here. I'm going to do the weather woman passing out on my other channel, which I do the Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies thing. So I got a bunch of stuff for that for tomorrow. But I want to talk about the Trump stuff here. But this other thing is just, something that I've said in different ways, but I want to be very concise about it. And Sharon Stone is a good jumping off point. So here she is. She's at the Women's Cancer Research Gala or fundraiser or something. And she's being given a Courage Award. And this is, where she goes with that.
Your shoes cost more than you gave.
We're going to talk about shoes in a bit. Your shoes cost more than you gave, you cheap M&Fers. She's talking about their donating to this cause, women's cancer research.
And you know it.
And you know it. She's always so angry about everything, right? You mad, bro? Why are you mad, bro?
The next thing you want to do costs more than you gave. And you know it.
And you know it. Like, this is the best way to get money out of people.
And I'm telling you what.
I should cry. What's happening?
My friends are worth more than you gave. And you know it.
Her friends are worth more than you gave. You only gave $10. And my friends are worth at least $11.
The people that stood up tonight right there.
Those people.
They're worth more than you gave, and you know.
Exactly. They're worth $12, $13.
The ones that stood up that lost people that they love, they're worth more than you gave, and you know it.
And you know it.
And I am standing here because I expect you to show it. And I mean it. And I know that thing that you have to get on and figure out and text the money is difficult.
Exactly. The internet, that's so tough.
I'm a technical idiot.
Well, more than just a technical idiot. You're socially an idiot, and you're always making the wrong choices, idiot. And there's a lot of idiocy there you're not addressing here.
But I can write a check.
Woo! Woo!
And right now, that's courage too.
It's courage for her. Why is that courage?
Because I know what's happening. I just lost half my money to this banking thing.
Kaboom! Go on.
And that doesn't mean that I'm not here.
She's still showing up with courage and a checkbook.
My brother just died. And that doesn't mean that I'm not here.
His brother dies, she's showing up.
This is not an easy time for any of us. This is a hard time in the world. But I'm telling you what, I'm not having some politician tell me what I can and cannot do.
Woo! Exactly. No politician's going to tell you what to do. Woo!
How I can and cannot live.
What I can and cannot give. Right? She's making it sound like politicians are saying, don't give money to cancer, right? Cancer research. Nobody said that. You can give it away, the banks stole your money. The financial system stole your money when you gave it to them. You gave them the money and they didn't give it back, right? And that's what really happened. Some politicians are telling me I can't give to cancer. And I say, F you to them.
And what the value of my life is and is not. So stand up. Stand up and say what you're worth.
What are you worth?
I dare you.
I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. I'm going to double dog dare you. I dare you. You did dared. I did dared you. You dared.
That's what courage is.
Yeah, that's what courage is. That's what courage is. I dare you. All right. So that's Sharon J. Stone. And, we're all happy she lost her buddy. It's going to happen to everybody because it's the, apocalypse. Here she is. Can she look any more ghoulish, right? Can you look any more ghoulish? I mean, just, and it's happening to her. Like she's really ghouling up. I'll get into that in a moment. But I noticed this. Her last video she did on Instaghoul, I mean, she's getting more and more ghoulish. Losing half her money or whatever she lost is a part of that. But let's go to this. Before you judge anti-vaxxers, walk a mile in their shoes. Sharon J. Stone. This is just one of many hostile things she posted. She's very divisive and she's very left and she's very angry and she's very hostile. And, and she's just a B-level actor, a C-level actor. Like she's not a good actress, right? Like she's very stiff. She's not good in things. She's not funny. She's a mean kind of a person. And she's, she doesn't have a lot going on for her, but she's very angry at other people and blames other people for lots of things that aren't their fault. It says here, looks like the vaxxed are clowns now, Sharon. So, there's, this way aged well, huh? All these things. But she'll never admit she's wrong. There's two more Instaghoul things I want to show you here from her. So, happy International Women's Day. Let's stand together.
I'm Sharon Stone, and today and every day I stand with ILO for International Women's Day.
So a couple things. It's just one day a year. You can't stand for it every day. And this whole new thing, I stand for the Ukraine, I stand for this. Come on. Like, it's just stupid. What does that even mean? Right?
To raise our voice to make gender equality a reality for all women and girls. As we know, women make 20% less on the dollar than men, and gender equality is not a reality.
So first of all, we all don't know that because there is right-wing statistics out there. Of course, there's left-wing statistics that say men and women get paid the same. That's neither here nor there. I don't care about that. I don't know. I can't say one way or another. But what she's doing is judging equality based in monetary compensation. That seems to be the big issue here. Women say they get paid less, and if that's true, well, that sucks because if they're doing the same work, they should get paid the same amount of money. If they're getting paid less because they're women, that should be corrected. But that won't bring in equality. Equality doesn't exist. Equality doesn't exist in nature. Equality is not a real thing, right? If you're talking about respect, that's something else. But this whole idea about equality that's pushing the divisiveness in this country is just a ridiculous thing, right? It's not a real thing. Two things can never be equal. They can be respected. You can have respect for things. You can have different value, subjective value for things, which is what she's talking about. And she's saying men have more value than women in our society. And I don't know if that's true or not. Because you can hear in the background of this video, as she's talking about equality, she has a crew of gardeners or someone around her. She lives in a multi-million-dollar house in, California somewhere, I think. I don't know where she is. Montana, I don't know where she is. But either way, she's in some expensive neighborhood where laborers are doing work, maybe gardening, maybe cutting down trees. Who knows what it is? They have you can hear the equipment. It's probably on her property. And so as she talks to you about equality, as she posts another one of her Instagram videos, she has men, I'm pretty sure they're men working on her place, doing her dirty work, right?
Let's change that. Let's make it a fair world for our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our friends. Let's stand together as women and make this world a fair world on a global scale.
So you want to make it a fair world, in air quotes, right? According to what you think is fair, which is subjective. There can't be fairness with subjectivity. Fairness doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in nature. It exists in divinity, but not in a lifetime. It's in the scope of all of creation, right? The length of your soul. There's fairness in your soul's journey, but not in a small portion of it. Like your life now, you won't see fairness. But if you look at the scope of your soul's journey, it's completely fair. Everything is fair. You're saying that God has made a mistake and the world isn't fair because you don't like it the way your ego doesn't like the what you see, right? Like that doesn't, like you just don't get it, right? It is fair. It's just you can't see the fairness in there in the sense that everything has a reason and purpose and everything's accounted for.
Let's make women equal, fair.
Let's make women equal and fair. Well, first of all, do you mean fair as in pretty, right? Or do you mean you want to make women fair because women are unfair? What are you saying here, Sharon?
True, consistent, and loving.
You want to make women true, consistent, and loving? Like, you're such an example of a loving woman, right?
Let's stand together for International Women's Day. I'm in my gallery painting. All the best.
She's just so fake and stiff. She's very stiff, very self-conscious, and it shows in her acting. She's not in the flow. She's not a good actress. I don't know what she's good at. She's very angry, very hostile, right? Fake smile. She's got these fake smiles. And I don't know whether it was her looks or she forced her way into Hollywood because she didn't get there because she was the best actress, right? There's lots of women who are better actresses. And so this is, again, someone who was rewarded for God knows what. Like how she became famous, I don't know. But she sucks at her job. Like, not sucks, but she's not good at it, right? She's mediocre at best. So this one here, stand up for the United States of America, I will, thanks. So I was scrolling through, and she posts so much on Instagram. She's like an Instagram-aholic, right? And I was looking for that clown shoes one. I should have bookmarked it because I'm probably going to use it again. And I had to scroll down forever to find it. And I saw this one, and she's been looking really ghouly lately. She's getting more and more ghoul. You just don't go full ghoul all at once. It takes a while. And she says something here that's going to tie into a comment I'm going to read when I talk about this other stuff. A really hostile comment that's kind of, an indicative of everything that's going on in the world, right? What she's trying to say here.
Hi. I rarely put up a personal plea of any kind, but I just watched a video of a kid, a young man taunting an Orthodox rabbi who had his hands down, and this boy punched this rabbi, just punched him and knocked him out for absolutely no reason other than the fact that he was being hateful.
This is the part that has a connection with the comment I'm going to play you in a moment. I'm going to read in a bit when I get into the whole truther thing. But, I've seen these videos. I've seen videos, mostly videos that right-wing people have sent me, and it has like African American people beating up white people at the BLM protests or Antifa or whatever it is, right? And I know the liberals are getting the same kind of stuff about, right-wing people beating up Jewish people or black people. I mean, everyone's seeing things that are going to outrage them. They're not seeing the stuff that happens. And when they do see it, they don't have the same reaction, right? Because there's a lot of hateful stuff here. I mean, I've seen MAGA people beating up other people, and then I saw these two people with MAGA hats on getting beat up by liberal people, whatever it is, right? And it's just supposed to provoke rage in you because that's what those kind of videos do. And you're only seeing one side of it, right? And so to come out here like whatever, I mean, everyone does this stuff. And it's what I want to get into about the truther stuff in a moment. It's there to provoke you. And she's had an emotional reaction as much as she's like a dead ghoul inside. She had some sort of emotional reaction here. But she's talking about hate. She's a very hateful person. I've covered her before with her overwhelmingly, hateful response towards, Trump and right-wing people and anti-vax people and people that didn't agree with her on COVID. And, she's just so angry with those people. And there's just, it's radiating out hate or whatever. But here, she wants to call for peace, but not from liberals who are watching her videos, right? This is the whole thing I want to get into about the truth community. She's calling for a lack of hate towards these hate people, which Arnold Schwarzenegger did in his whatever, plea. And they're not going to listen to you. They're not watching your videos. And if they are, they're watching you just to hate on you, right? Like, do you not understand what's going on in the world, right?
We've reached a point in our country, the United States of America, where we're becoming divided.
This is from the end of August of 2022, so about 6 months ago. And she's saying we're becoming divided. Like, we've been divided for a very long time, and now it's just getting worse, right? But if you're going to say, all right, we shouldn't be divided, then you have to change on your side. You can't be like, all right, we're divided, so you guys on the other side have to change. She's very partisan. She's very, she's against men. She's against right-wing people. She's against all these things. And she's just right and you're just wrong, right? This is also, again, you truthers who are like that, and a lot of you are, this is an example of how you come across to other people.
And we're becoming divided by people who claim to be politicians, people who claim to be acting in our best and better interests. They're not. They're really not.
What are you talking about? The hate that she exhibited towards anti-vaxxers and people on the right and Trumpers and all of it. She's so partisan. Like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about just right-wing politicians or right-wing media? Like, well, why even bother, saying anything then? You're not saying anything that's going to have an effect on anything, right? You're just posing.
Love, kindness, humanity, decency, dignity. These are the things that are in our better interests, and these are the things that are in the best interests of our children. We're called the United States of America for a reason.
Okay, so she really sucks, right? Because, she just doesn't get it. She doesn't get how. So, to segue into this thing, I'm going to come back to her. I'm going to read a comment in a moment and all these things I said I was going to do. But first, I want to give the simplistic understanding of the so-called truth community, right? This is what the essence of all of us so-called truth seekers are doing here. The first part is, are they lying to us, the people that control the system, right? Are they lying to us about, not just small things, like everyone knows politicians lie, but everything, like, on a larger scale? And are they, against us in some way, hurting us, making us worse? And then the second part is, if they are lying to us, then what is the truth? Those are the two unanswered questions. All the stuff that's out there in the truth community are about these two things. Most of it's about the first part. Are they lying to us? And then the second part, what is the truth? If they're lies, if it's a deception, then what's the truth, right? And I'm going to give you the answer to both of those things. It's very simple, and it's just that people want to stay in it, stay in the process, so they don't ever find the answers. They just keep on searching for these two answers that they never get. And then there's a third answer. Okay, if I know that they're lying and I kind of understand the truth, where does that leave me? Well, then what do I do now? And almost no one reaches anywhere close to this, right? Most of you guys aren't even getting a whiff of that. You're not even considering what you need to change or what you need to do differently. Where does your future lie? So the first part of this is, the answer is yes, they're liars. And yes, they have an agenda. And yes, you know, it's everything you think it is and more. Like, I know this because of just doing this for so long, and you should know it as well, right? Like, I mean, it's just obviously that they're lying to us all the time. And so that's all you need to know. But you want to know, well, what is the exact nature of the lie, and what part is true and what part's a lie, and why are they lying, and what can we do to force them to stop lying? That's the stuff that you just, it's stupid to pursue those things. You're not going to change them. They're not going to change. They're never going to admit they're lying. And so, like, oh, we're going to catch them. We're going to get the facts. Well, you're never going to get the facts. There's just so much deception out there. You'll never get the facts, right? I mean, I'll play that meme that I just have. Like, this is a meme in a recent TV show from the Peacock Network. It's an English TV show. And the show sucks, but, this is a true thing that they're saying here.
Us to provoke on the ground. If we've attracted the right kind of people, it'll kick off of its own accord.
So it's all made up, the whole thing.
Well, I prefer managed.
But what's the point of reporting something that's so obviously fake news?
Look, you need to forget all your previous experience as a journalist, okay? Whether it's faked isn't the point. I mean, everything that's reported is fake, one way or another. We know that people won't believe it. It probably contradicts what we said yesterday. It doesn't matter. The point is to get people used to the idea that everything's a lie, that there is no truth. And once they accept that, well, biggest liar wins.
And so, are you not convinced that they're liars? I mean, just, ask yourself the question. Do you still need more convincing? Like, what is it going to take for you to understand that the people that run the system, but humanity in general, and everything we do, we're always lying to ourselves, the people in your life. I mean, it's just, everything's a deception. People willfully deceive themselves and rationalize things and get angry at other people for things they do themselves. I mean, Sharon Stone is a premier example of this. She's a hateful, mean, angry person. She's been successful, but she's feeling like she's screwed over somehow, and women have been screwed over, and, all this stuff. And she just wants the other side to fix themselves so we can have a United States of America. I mean, this is what she's saying, right? And it's ridiculous, and she can't see herself the way that we can obviously see her, but most people can't see themselves in this way, right? Like, we all are warping reality to suit our personal worldview. And, the reason we can't get along with other people is because we suck. It's, they suck, certainly. It's not like they don't suck. They do. There are some people who don't. There's some great people out there, or at least, saintly people. But for the most part, human beings are failed species of self-deceivers, right? And so the people running the system are in the top of that, and they're greedy, and they're all those things. They want to have all this power and money, and people who are like that are always bad people, right? They want to control other people. This is all about control. That's why I call them controllers. They want to control things that they can't, their ego wants to control things that they don't have permission to control. And so what more proof do you need? It's just everywhere. It just slaps you in the face. Once the idea is there, you're in denial, sure. You're a sheeple, sure. You're in denial. But once you have an awakening, then that's a no-brainer. Yeah, they're liars and deceivers. And then, so why do you want to get to the bottom of their lies? They're never going to admit to anything. They're never going to change anything. The system itself is a lie. And so, why does it have to be some obsession with combing through their filth, their cesspool, and trying to figure it out? Like, I do updates. I make jokes about it. Sometimes you need some reinforcement because you can easily go back to sleep. But, it's very little that you need. So that first part, almost everybody after a few months should just accept that they're liar and deceivers. And you don't have to catch them in every lie. You don't have to figure out every lie. You don't have to be obsessed with it. You just, you define them as, these are your leaders and this is the people that control your lives. And overall, they're untrustworthy. They're hurting us. And they're taking us in the wrong direction. They're disconnecting us from God. I mean, the system is. And we're, going along with it, right? That's all anybody needs to know. Like, constantly trying to catch them, constantly trying to expose them and show to other people, look, this guy's lying. I want to show you. Look, I got the facts. Yeah, I got the receipt. I got the receipt. Yeah, it doesn't work, right? Like, it just, nobody cares and nobody listens to anybody else. And I mean, it's just very few people are open to changing. It's just not going to happen, right? And, people get obsessed with certain issues, but you can see they're not that important to you because you forget about them. You stop being interested in them. Yeah, I see the shelf life that things happen, right? So there was the big event 2001 that kind of kicked this off in terms of the internet getting in on the whole conspiracy theory world that existed on AM radios and things like this, AM radio and newsletters and whatever it was. And so 2001 big event, and then there was this financial collapse, and then these other subsequent events that happened, the shooting events and things, and then all these so-called false flag things, and people came in on those events. Then the pizza thing, a lot of people came in on that, the pizza thing and that whole stuff with the pedos and Jeffrey Epstein and all that, right? And then now it's the vax, but there's been other issues that people are concerned about, chemtrails, this, whatever it is. At some point, you're like, all right, I don't care about this anymore. Then you move on to something else. And you have to get to the bottom of it. You got to go down the rabbit hole. Why? Why do you have to do that? It's just a waste of time and energy. You already know that they're liars. You're never going to get the exact truth, so why search for it? And that brings us to the second part, knowing the truth, right? And the truth is that this is a system that's built in variety of different deceptions: an economic deception, debt-based economy, a social deception, and a false premise of the pursuit of happiness, which is a false, it's not the real reason you're here, a disconnection from God, religions that disconnect you from God instead of helping you connect to God, right? All these things I talk about. And that's the truth, right? The system itself is a bad system. It's taken us away from our true purpose, our true goals here, our soul's goals and our soul's path. And so again, that's all you need to know. It's just that much. And whatever you need to do to figure that out, but it's there for you to see. And so the whole system's a lie, and it's, taking you in the wrong direction. We're all participating in it, and it can't be fixed. It can't be healed. It can't be changed. And so it leaves you, well, what are you going to do now? And that's what you have to figure out. That's the real question. And that's the question that involves you changing and you evolving and you whatever it is, right? And only you can answer that question. And nobody's going to give you the answer, and no one's going to, you might get some help finding the answer, but each person has to figure that out. What do you got to do now? Like, now that you know that you're living a lie, a deception, what are you going to do with that, right? What are you going to do with that information? And that the system's collapsing around us, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to change about yourself and internally? And what are you going to change about your lifestyle? What are you going to do differently? I mean, lots of people want to bitch about the environment, but they don't change their habits or their footprint. You have all these liberal people, for example. I mean, same thing with right-wing people. Lots of people bitch about things, but they don't want to change anything themselves, right? They want other people to change, which, waiting for other people to change, because you're upset. Like, like it just doesn't exist in reality, right? So I want to give you an example of a comment I got. This is from 2 days ago. And this was, Snoop Dogg has a new toddler cartoon, and yes, it's bad. Kamala Harris sees bison everywhere. And so in this video, I don't talk about my daughter and a suicide at all, right? I don't reference it. There's nothing like that. At least to my knowledge. Of course, I don't remember everything in it, but, it was a recent video. And this person writes, your daughter committed suicide because you are a horrible person, right? And what a horrible thing to say to somebody, right? And I looked at this guy's channel, and as far as I can tell, he is his Hasidic, is that how you say it? Hasidic Jewish person, maybe possibly a rabbi. And he's posting a lot of religious videos. And, unless somebody's taken this guy and they're posting his videos, but I don't think that's the case, right? Not based on what I saw in this person's channel. Because I never heard from this person before. We never interacted. I mean, unless he had another account or whatever, something like that. But as far as I know, I don't know who this person is. This person's certainly a stranger to me, right? And in a video where I'm 99% sure I didn't say anything about my daughter. If you guys saw the video, maybe you'll say, oh, no, you did say whatever. But even if I did, it's a horrible response. But more than likely I didn't. So it comes randomly out of the person's. I mean, there's nothing here that this would make this comment appropriate, right? And so, this thing with Sharon Stone, I didn't know, but I just saw it today. Like the comment was from 2 days ago. I was already going to talk about this already. But I was like, all right, now I'm going to definitely, this Sharon Stone thing is segue in because she's such a good example of, you can see yourself as an obsessed person who's angry and blaming the other side but taking no personal responsibility in their own existence. And she starts talking about how she saw a video of a non-Jewish person beating up a Jewish person. And yet, in my experiences a couple of days ago, here's a person who just happens to be of Jewish, heritage, it seems like, Jewish whatever, culture or religion or whatever you call it. And they're saying a hateful thing to me, right? Because none of that stuff matters. It's not like there's a one-sided, where there's definitely good people on one side, on one group, one demographic, and bad people on the other. That doesn't exist. It never exists. When you divide your, people into different demographics, or people divide themselves into demographics and, whatever group, they immediately think the group that they're in is better than the group that other people are in. That's how it works. You're not going to choose a group that you don't think is superior. And so all this stuff about equality and all these things, I mean, stuff in the truthers, right? We think we're superior to sheeple and normies and, all of it. Like everyone who's in a group and they see, another group that's adversarial to them. And, we have to hear it all the time how we're horrible. And we hear it all the time from the media and the politicians, crazy conspiracy theorists, and how we're the worst people in the world. We all hear it, right? So it's all there. So, it's all this stuff. But this random person decided to say that I'm a horrible person and I'm responsible for my daughter's suicide. Like, think about, I mean, it's as bad a thing as you could say to somebody, right? And just for no reason, like completely unprovoked on my part, right? Like I might have said things that upset the person about Snoop Dogg or Kamala Harris or God knows what, or in some other video or whatever. But their response is certainly not justified, right? And every person that loses a loved one to suicide, there's part of them, especially if you're the parent, that's going to blame yourself, right? Is going to wonder if you did things differently this way or whatever it is. And I could have been going through a really bad day. I mean, the person doesn't know what's happening on my end and just decides to load this boop bomb over, right? In my life or whatever it is. I mean, just think about it. Again, I don't need any support from you. I'm not bummed about it. I'm not emotionally hurt. But, that person doesn't know that, right? Because the only thing this comment is meant to do is hurt me in some way, right? Make me feel bad about myself. That's, and I say mean things about people all the time. So I don't care. Like, I don't look at this as like I'm a victim when I get these comments. But I'm just used to them and I'm numb to them. I don't care about them. It's not important. But the reason I'm addressing it here is because now I mock people and make fun of them. And, it's definitely not nice. And so it is what it is, right? I'm not going to try to pretend it's, and there's whole reasonings behind it and, diving into the cesspit to produce maybe some higher level or at least spiritual teachings of some level or another. You got to meet people where where they're at. And there are things that people have said that are against us together collectively, me personally, and I don't feel hate for them, right? Because that makes me feel bad. Like it's not, I'm above hating somebody for for unselfish reasons, like, oh, I'm just above hate. No, feeling hateful sucks. When you hate people, when you feel angry and hateful, it sucks. When you feel resentment, like, I don't want to go through life feeling that way. I did have those feelings for a good portion of my life, and they got cleaned out through the Sajmark meditation practice. I'm doing the gratefulness practice now. There's all of us that do that. But I don't want to feel that way, and it's not going to change the other person. There's a great saying: being resentful is like swallowing a poison pill and expecting your enemy to die. Right? You feeling hateful and resentful doesn't hurt the other person; it hurts you. Right? I mean, hate is something that consumes you from within. And so I don't feel that. Like, and thank God I don't feel it anymore. But there are people who I don't like, and people who are bad, whatever it is, or, I think they're bad, or, people like, Alec Baldwin, who, all these things, right? And I make videos and, I joke about things or whatever. It's lightly done. At least I feel light about it. But if one of his kids committed suicide, I would not, and I don't know if I would say something about it on the internet, but I wouldn't, say to that person personally, or even think that it was their fault. I'm sure that they contributed, because we all do as parents, right, to the outcome of our children. We have an effect on our kids. And so if they're successful, then we're partially responsible for that. Not totally, but partially. But all the bad things that, we're partially responsible for that, but not all of it. Like, your parents aren't responsible for everything that you've become. And so when your child dies of suicide, and it's such a, painful process, because it just doesn't happen overnight for most people, unless you're totally disconnected from your kids. I mean, I stressed and worried about Anna for so many years. Like, how is she going to function in this world? The person that she was becoming. And it just sucked for me. And I was trying to, figure out ways of making it better, and, all these things, praying about it. I mean, I just, it wasn't just, oh, she committed suicide. It was like 5 or 6 years that I was deeply concerned for her, even, years before that. I made her a video, try to make her feel better, these things, talking to her and just, trying to structure things and just, I mean, it just was a painful thing to go through, traumatic, right? And, when I found out, which is about some time, like around this time, it was, I think in March, around March, April. And, it just was, I mean, it was the culmination of something that, took years and years to develop, right? And this person saying that isn't going to make it any worse. Like, it couldn't be made any worse, right? You know, there's other people, people in my ex's camp. One of them emailed me or messaged me on Facebook blaming me for this or whatever it was. And so, there's that. Like, but what people believe and what actually is true or whatever is, it's not, none of it's going to make it any worse than the process, of her descending down into a negative path, like a failed life or whatever it was, right? And just being a part of that. And I was a part of that with other people, my ex and, other people, just sucky people to be around, people who are, there's people that, if let's say you go on a family trip or maybe a trip with your friends, right? And all 4 of the Seinfeld people would be good examples of this. The characters in Seinfeld. Some of them are worse than others. And you never knew what was going to set a person off. So, I dealt with this with all the kids, pretty much every kid that was in the treatment centers that I, worked in. And these were, kids who were sexually abused and just messed up psychological, horrible people in various ways, right? They had been, mistreated and they just couldn't function. And you never knew when they were going to go off, right? You just knew it was a potential. And when you live with somebody like that, maybe it's somebody who gets angry and violent or whatever, maybe somebody who is a victim or whatever happens to them, but they will just wreck a good time. Like, you could be having a great time and the person gets jealous or triggered or something sets them off. I mean, it happened with my ex. She would see something in a TV show. Like, one time we were watching a TV show, a documentary. Anna picked out, my daughter Anna found, which is about this guy named Buck, and he is like a real horse whisperer, and he was describing his physical abuse. And it triggered my ex, and she age regressed into like a 2 or 3 year old and started talking in baby talk. I mean, and my kids are around this when it's happening, right? It's like effed up. And when you're with people like that who they're just any time they could just flip out, and the energy just shifts and you're just in hell, right? Like, you could be having a great time at the beach or Disney World or whatever, and the person just gets selfish and acts out. You have this with kids, and they just act out all the time, and you can't make them happy, and like everyone's trying to pacify them, and you don't know what to do about it. You discipline them, you pass, whatever. You try to pump them up and make them feel good about themselves. You do whatever you try to do, it doesn't work, and you're just walking on eggshells all the time. And living with people like that. If you haven't, well, God bless you. But those of us who have, it just it's extraordinarily difficult to go through. But going back to this person's comment, right? All of that I've described, and so from my end, what it is, right? But that person saying that I'm a horrible person, he just said something that makes him a horrible person, because only a horrible person would do that. And I wouldn't do that, right? Like, no matter who it is, I wouldn't write to somebody and say, this is your fault, because it's none of my business. Like, each person has to figure that out for themselves. And why would I do that? What would be the benefit for me? Like, would I, why would I write to somebody else whose child had committed suicide and blame them for it? Like, what would that do for me, right? Why would I do that? The only reason to do it is to hurt somebody, and you get off on the hurting. Like, you get off on making somebody feel bad. You get enjoyment out of that, which makes you a horrible person, right? And this person who wrote the comment, you would feel bad about, like, that person at some point would be like, yeah, that's the thing. Why did I say that? That was kind of effed up. Like, these people don't ever look at themselves, right? I mean, one of the reasons not to do something like that is you don't wake up in the middle of the night going, holy boop, I can't believe I said that to that person, right? Like, I've said mean things to people and then been like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that, right? Like, I mean, I did this when I was just a total punk and just a horrible person back when I was younger, and I would say things, and you say things in anger, or you're in an argument or whatever it is, and you lash out, but then there's some sense of remorse. And there's so many people that don't have that. They're totally clueless, and they're just, oblivious to everything. And, Sharon Stone like that, obviously. And so, we're a failed species. The experiment has failed. There's so many people walking around who are just negative. They're bankrupt. They don't have any love. They don't have any connection to God. They can only take from other people. They just have to suck energy out of other people. They're miserable. And they just, they have to, if they're wealthy, they just have to get more and more stuff to, feed their prana, because they don't have any love energy to pull from. And so we're so unnatural and we're so effed up, and you just have to open your eyes and look around. And the good people are struggling because they're being used like batteries left and right. People with love, people with any positive energy, and they're just being sucked dry by the selfishness and all of it. And it fully exists in the truth community. The truth community is no different than any other community, right? And so, you have to really understand whether you're a horrible person or not, a life sucker, a vampire, a ghoul, and you don't have any energy to give other people. You're assed out. You're bankrupt. You've been sucked dry by other, people or whatever, and you just, are existing in a way to suck energy off other people. And then that's the problem, right? That's your problem. That's what you need to deal with. That's problem number one. How do you get healthy again? How do you, rectify? And this is the great thing about the Sajmark system and the transmission. It's divine love that can restore your love bank, right? But there's things out there, ways to get your love back. But if you hate your job, you hate your life, you hate all the people in it, you hate everyone on the internet, and you're just seething with anger and hate and resentment, and you blame everyone else, and somehow you're a victim, well, you're not a truther. You're not anything. You're just a part of the problem. and like, going down the rabbit hole looking for other things outside yourself to blame for your miserable internal condition. And like, and that's most people. And that's why the system has to be cleansed in a sense. And humanity has to start over because where we are now is bad and getting worse. All right, so let's get into the other headlines and stuff here. So this video is already 45 minutes long, so I'm not going to cover much of anything else. I just want to do this thing with Trump because it's topical, right? But Trump says legal leaks indicate he will be arrested Tuesday in New York City hush money probe. Here's from Huffington Post. Donald Trump names day he'll be arrested in new Truth Social screed. Well, here's the first part. It's time. We are a nation in steep decline, being led into a World War III by crooked politician who doesn't even know he's alive, but who is surrounded by evil and sinister people who, based on their actions on defunding the police, destroying our military, open borders, no voter ID, inflation, raising taxes, much more, can only hate our failing U.S. We just can't allow this anymore. They're killing our nation, and we sit back and watch. We must save America. Protest, protest, protest. And then he added, part two, now illegal leaks from a corrupt and highly political Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has allowed new records to be set in violent crime and whose leader is funded by George Soros, indicate, with no crime being able to be proven based on an old, fully debunked by numerous other prosecutors fairy tale, the far and away leading Republican candidate and former president of the United States of America will be arrested on Tuesday of next week. Protest, take back our nation. Okay, so I already did a voiceover we'll get to in a moment about this brief one. But I just want to react to him saying protest, protest, protest. How'd that work out the last time for you? And more importantly, your followers, right? Protests don't work, and I've said it over and over again. They don't work. So you're protesting something that you don't want to happen or something you do want to happen, and your protests have no bearing on whether that thing's going to happen or not. If the powers that be are pushing it forward, the protest just acts like first of all, it acts like a pressure release valve in a pressure cooker so that the anger will be dispelled, and then you'll end up accepting the bad deal that they're going to give you. And if you act out in a violent way, they turn the story on you, and you become the problem, and they make things even worse. Instead of getting the thing they wanted, they get even more. They take even more power back. Protests always backfire. We saw it with the big January protests and how that worked out for Trump and his followers, right? I mean, it's been a disaster. And it's the same sort of thing. The Donald is just a piece of boop because he lost the election. Again, you can say there's cheating, whatever it is. But, the results were in, and the elections are corrupt all the way around. The elections aren't fair. They're not, they're not anything. Elections, they're not even real. So it's like, protesting the outcome of a WWE match, right? Like, it's rigged, right? And so the whole system's rigged, and Donald Trump is benefiting from the rigging from an early age, right? Donald Trump has, been a part of the elite from, since the time he was born. His dad was rich, and he's been a part of that whole thing. And, you can be a Trump lover and make up some other reality, but he's, one of the privileged people. He's one of the 1%ers. And he didn't like the outcome. Instead of dealing with a way that would have been effective, he brought all those people to Washington, D.C., and it had disastrous effects. And many of them, their lives were ruined, and they were brought into this whole thing. Whatever Donald Trump is doing purposefully, or whether he's just a dope, I don't know. Whether he's part of it or he's just being used, who knows? But either way, we know that he's led his, he's Pied Piper. He's led his, he's a Judas goat, and now he wants people to protest because he's getting arrested. It's not going to affect the outcome of the whatever's going to go on with the trial. I doubt they're going to put him in jail anyways. And hush money, I don't know New York is such a corrupt place. The whole thing's ridiculous, right? They're certainly targeting him the way that, demographics of people get targeted. And I mean, all these people that complain about other groups whining about being profiled. Well, Donald Trump is being profiled, and now he's whining about it, right? It's always, it's whining until it happens to you. But for him to bait his followers or plead with his followers to go out and protest and get them to put themselves in harm's way is just his total failure as a leader. Again, I don't know if he's acting or this is just him being used, but he got worked all through the COVID thing, all the way through the election. I mean, the way they worked him and his Operation Warp Speed, he no longer can claim to be a person. I mean, he was always sucky and a liar, but that was where it was definitive that he was the problem, or he was a part of the problem, right? Like he wasn't the solution. But here's the voiceover I did earlier. And so my first reaction to this was, well, the banking collapse must be a lot worse than we think, because they're firing this Kraken out. This is a big story. It's going to dominate everything, right? So there's a reason. There has to be a distraction reason, because clearly this is not going to make Trump go away. It's going to galvanize his base. It's going to make people feel bad for him because, again, it seems like they're just out to get him for no reason. If he beats the charges, which he's already beaten two, and not that he's beaten, they don't want to get rid of him. They can't get rid of him. Like their whole model is a Donald Trump centered model. I mean, I wish he would go away. I wish they'd all go away, right? They're just, well, I mean, I make fun of, I'm glad to make fun of the news medias and the Democrats, but Donald Trump is at the center of their existence. And so if they make him go away, what are they going to talk about? How are they going to push their agenda forward? The fear of Trump is a big part of it's the centerpiece of their whole everything, their whole worldview is the anti-Trump, right? Trump embodies the enemy that they have to justify their radical actions, right? And so, this isn't going to make him go away. I mean, if they put him in jail, then I'll want to see how it plays out. But, there must be something else going on that they're doing this right now, because they could have done this 2 years ago or last year, 2 months ago. Like, why now? That's always the thing. And like I was saying before, who cares? Because we're never going to know until it plays out. But obviously, the reasons that they're saying they're doing this to bring justice isn't the reason, because, get rid of Trump, because it's likely that he's going to get off. I mean, I would be shocked if you see Donald Trump in jail. And for the next year or so, this is just going to be an ongoing. It'll take forever. The trial roll around. I mean, this will keep Donald Trump. They'll be talking about Trump now. They'll have a real reason to talk about him for the next, how many months it takes to the trial and the trial itself. But I want to end here. I'll cover more stuff in a couple of days. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.